Okay. Vare, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for having me home and for having this incredible setup.
Thank you. This is what I used to give classes usually, so it's
This,
okay.
for a podcast, this is even better.
Amazing, yeah.
How are you?
Very good, very good.
See?
Yes.
So, this is a very different podcast to the ones that I usually record, different guests, a different topic. So, for that reason, if you can give the listeners a little bit on who you are, what you do, uh, like what do you talk about? What's
Yeah. So I for the last 13 years I've been a Kabbalah instructor in the Kabbalah Center here in Mexico, but I also teach in all Latin America, and that's what I do. That's what I give. Kabbalah is a wisdom, spiritual wisdom that talks about the purpose of creation, the purpose of life, and it actually helps us to understand, to learn, to be conscious, and to be more fulfilled, more plenty
Mhm,
in our lives. So that's the purpose, and that's what I teach. I do, I give classes about this wisdom.
mhm.
It's very practical, in a practical way, so people can actually start experiencing this in their lives. And yeah, that's what I do. I've been doing this for the last, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years. I've been in the center, but the
10 years
last
as a
10 years I've
teacher.
been as a teacher. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason I chose you as a guest is because for 18 years,
Uh-huh.
I've been around the
Uh-huh.
Kabbalah, but it's never clicked for me until I started to speak with you.
Okay.
So it was a great introduction for it to relate with me. Este, so what would you call or describe Kabbalah as?
So
Because it's understood as a religion because of the
exactly.
letters and because of the way it's practiced,
Exactly.
but you hear it described as a philosophy, as wisdom, as knowledge.
It's a wisdom. It's wisdom because the word wisdom in Spanish, sabiduría,
Mhm,
comes from the word saber, which means to know. Like when you know something. So, for example, uh, there's a difference between believing and knowing. If you believe, maybe you believe in God, you believe in whatever you believe, or whoever believes in whatever. No, no. If there's God, no God, several gods, one God, whatever. But knowing is different. When you know something, is because you have experienced it. So, in a sense, uh, it, the wisdom is about experiencing. Like when a person gets wiser, is because the experiences of life have taught him
mhm,
stuff. So for thousands of years, wise men, through their experiences, through their knowledge, developed this, revealed this, and basically it's similar to science. Science is also, through experimentation, you get to conclusions, to laws on how things work. So basically, the same is Kabbalists are wise men that have existed for 4,000 years, observing the universe, observing how things work, and they concluded in several laws, spiritual laws. And when I mean spiritual, it's inner. Our inner part is the
mhm.
spiritual part. The physical part is everything external, everything that we experience through the five senses. So um, when you start applying this wisdom to your life, you start experiencing more fulfillment. You start experiencing change. So it's not only to believe something because it is. You need to really start
Have skin in the game. See.
skin in the game and start utilizing the wisdom, and practicing this wisdom on your daily life, so you can actually get to the conclusions. And I'm as when I was 18 years old, my favorite subject
You told me.
in
Yeah.
in in school was physics.
See.
And I'm an engineer, and I like to prove things.
Mhm,
And actually, religion for me wasn't a big deal when I was young. Like, I was very skeptical, and with all the information that is out there now, it's like you question yourself stuff. When I start studying Kabbalah, it was a game changer because it actually taught me practical things that I can actually experience in my life, and I saw change in me internally, specifically. More, I was happier, I was more balanced, I was, and practicing doesn't mean, because when we think practicing Kabbalah, it means like, okay, I need to pray or I need to
Hmm.
do rituals, and it's not exactly that. It's actually to flow with the universe. Is actually learn how the universe flows, what's the purpose, where are we going to, and get affinity to that flow. Then things start flowing in your life. But when you don't understand why things happen, or you believe things are because of luck, or people have good luck or bad luck, then you start trying out in life, and sometimes that takes you to places that it's very painful.
Hmm.
So it's like understanding how the universe works and start applying it to your life, and then things will flow. No,
Okay.
that's basically the essence of it. um who is it for? It's a universal truth, so it's for everyone,
Sí.
everyone who desires to learn it. It's like, I always compare Kabbalah to mathematics or science, or you know to whom does mathematics apply? To everyone. Like, everybody needs to
Sure.
add, subtract, multiply. It's not something like for a specific group of people. So that's something also very important to understand, that it's a universal wisdom that has been, it was revealed thousands of years ago, but through the time, not only the wisdom became more practical in a way that now humanity can use it, because before it was too elevated and just certain people could understand it. Parallel to that, also humanity, because of science, because of the knowledge of how things work, also was more ready to understand it.
O
So
sea,
right, so right
right
now,
now.
right now we're living, like 100 years ago until now, and as time passes by, more and more and more, we're converging in these two aspects. That the wisdom is in a level that more people can apply it to their lives, and at the same time, humanity as a whole is
Is
more mature. It's like more open and more understanding on how to actually use these truths in their lives.
why do you think humanity is more mature now?
The way that people mature, unfortunately, like, when I say humanity, we need to see humanity as a whole, because what previous generations matured, give to next generation. So for example, there's certain changes. Like, I will give you an example. Like, 100 years ago, maybe 150 years ago, slavery was totally normal.
Sure.
you know and if today we have slaves in our house, they would put us in jail.
Sí.
You agree?
Hmm.
So there's certain things that humanity, also racism, racism, there's still racism in the world, but it's much less acceptable than what it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago.
Hmm.
So I think there's a society is maturing, and we can see society as one person, that started, let's say, 5,000 years ago as a baby. And when we were babies, we were trying out, and we would hurt each other, and we
Sí.
would, so there were more wars, there was more
It was
bloodshed,
more animal like.
more animal like. And
Sí.
then humanity start evolving, and certain things, even now that we are not in that, we're not perfect,
No.
but we are way better than what we were before.
Sure.
And that's a constant, that's actually a spiritual law, that evolution is constant.
Sí.
We're constant evolving and constant learning and constantly adapting, and that's why we're a little bit more open to receive things. People, even we see it in younger ages, like, people are more interested, more open to things that probably, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, young people would not be open to, right? And that's due to several factors: the fact that we have internet, the fact that we are much more connected,
Mm-hmm.
that we're much more aware. Also, it's not like, okay, I believe this because that's what they told me
Mm-hmm.
to believe. We're questioning. So it's
Sure.
very important to question, because to question, you create a vessel, you create somewhere where you can receive more. If you don't question and you're like, yeah, yeah, this is like that, and I'm afraid to question, then you block yourself. You limit yourself to actually expand your mind and expand to the truth of the universe. So yeah, it's a very interesting time that's happening right now.
Interesting. You wouldn't say that, sure, we've matured, but we're much more stuck to what's material than before.
I I
Because,
would I think that right now, things, because material things give you a momentary
pleasure.
fulfillment,
See.
momentary pleasure.
No, the reason I say this is because if you see ancient civilizations 4,000 years, 3,000 years ago, they did not care about materialism. If they did, they understood a data connection with the divine.
Yeah,
No, but they practiced and they studied death,
yeah,
where the soul went.
yeah.
No, and you could say they were more elevated in that aspect. No,
Yeah, in a sense, yes, they had more time to question
sure,
themselves.
see, of course.
Today, everything is faster. So I think that, yes, we're very engaged in materialism, but at the same time, and it's a very interesting thing what you're saying, because at the same time, people are getting disappointed faster as well.
Mm,
You understand? Like, you know, since since we can get things faster now,
mhm.
and the processes, probably a person 50
So
years
the
ago.
experience is faster. See,
Exactly. So probably 50 years ago would wait like 30 years
Ota, see.
to reach something in their life. Now they reach it. Now the person can reach it in 5 years.
See,
Fame, this, money, that. So then the disappointment that really is not what's bringing you happiness, like real fulfillment, is faster. So we're in a point right now that people, yes, it's more chaotic,
sure,
because people are like more disappointed of their experiences, about what they have achieved or not. And at the same time, that chaos opens their heart, opens our heart. When we have a tough experience in life, that experience, yeah, in the process is very hard, but after that it makes you more mature.
sure. See,
It makes you less afraid, it makes you more responsible, it makes you more. Probably takes a long time for that person, but at the end it gets to that point for that person. And actually, when you see an old man, let's say, and you say why this guy is wise, why this person is wise,
mhm,
is because of the difficulties that person has gone through their lives,
of course.
right? So I think now, since everything is faster, also those difficulties come faster to our lives. When I was, I always make this joke, like the middle age crisis. That's something that happens at 40 years. That happened to me when I was 23. I experienced like I knew, and then I was like, this is really what life is about. It
Uh-huh.
cannot be. you
What
know
was that experience?
I used to have an amazing job in my home country in Panama. I used to fly to my in helicopter every day to my job. I was getting paid very well. I had all the recognition. I had the car. I had everything, and I feel totally empty.
Wow.
I feel totally empty. And I was like, man, what's happening? Like
See,
it was supposed that if you have all of this, you should be happy. That's what your framework is. And I was empty. And I was empty because I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do.
which was,
This.
so you started to study this, and that's
it,
when the
it it
emptiness.
was it was the opposite. When I decided to let go completely of my life, and it was a leap of faith because I didn't know what was going to happen. I said, you know what, I'm gonna just let go of. I quitted my job because I wasn't happy, even though in the if you see it externally, it was an amazing job, but it wasn't like I wasn't connected to it. I quitted my job, and 2 months after that, this wisdom came to my life.
Wow.
Like it was crazy. Like 2 months after that, it came to my life, and I started studying it, and one thing led to another, and then a year after that, I realized that I wanted to dedicate my life to this,
Wow.
and it was a real shock for the people around me.
Of course.
You understand? Because the people around me were like, "Man, you're you graduated from university. You're an engineer. What are you gonna do? You're gonna be a priest now? What is it? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right? Like a spiritual guru? Like, what's that?" So, but I think that was one of the hardest and best decisions I've made in my life, to really connect to what makes you happy. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that, what I did. I think you need to do what makes you happy. And sometimes you're not focused on what makes you happy, you're focused on what makes other people happy, your parents, your friends, society, and you're not focused on what makes you happy. And that's the key. That's the key. Because if something makes you happy, then you will practice it and you will become good at it, and
Sure.
then you will be successful.
Sure.
You understand? So I think that's the key.
How'd you become aware of that? Because that's
Very
what.
painful. I became aware of that. It was a very painful process because I thought that I was happy, but I told you I wasn't happy. Like really, I wasn't happy. Uh, and I just decided to, you know, to look for what will make me happy. I
Mhm.
was young back then. I was living with my parents. I didn't have so much responsibilities like I have now with two kids and my wife but
Your
it
teacher.
was it was yeah, and a teacher. And it was a good timing for me,
Sure.
thank God. But people just get stuck on receiving the approval of other people and making decisions based on that, based on what makes other people happy instead, and they're not honest with themselves. So I think we need to connect to ourselves. We need to really listen to what our inner voice is
That's
telling us.
that's something I want to touch on, but I want to touch on a couple things first because
Yeah,
it's a big topic for me at least,
yeah.
which is like how was this wisdom introduced to your life? How did it arrive?
So it was very funny. Like one day, I used to have a girlfriend that her cousin was studying Kabbalah for a long time, but I didn't know. I didn't know what was Kabbalah. I didn't know anything. And he opened a restaurant, and in that restaurant, it was like a small cafe. And in that cafe, he had Kabbalah books
Mm,
like all over the walls, like for sale.
hmm.
And I was looking, you know, I was studying quantum physics and studying, books about how consciousness affects the physical world and stuff like that, but through science, like through
Hmm.
not through spirituality, but more through science. And because I love science, I love quantum physics, I love all of that. I studied that before actually coming into Kabbalah. And then one day I went with my girlfriend to this cafe with and they the owners were there, the cousin was there, and then we start talking, and like we're doing right now.
Hmm.
And he said, like, man, I think that you've been studying Kabbalah like for 10 years now. And I said, what are you talking about? I don't know what the hell are you talking about. So he gave me a book, that was the last book that the Kabbalist, the Rav Berg wrote. That was the last book he wrote. It's called Nano.
Mm.
uh, and
And that
it's
was the perfect introduction for
yeah,
someone
because
like
I
you.
was looking. It's physics
Sí.
and spirituality. That's what it is, science and spirituality. So for me, it was like mind blowing,
Wow.
because yeah, science is very interesting, how things work, but how does that apply to your life, and how does that make your life better internally? It's maybe, yeah, science gives us all of this technology, microphones, computer, everything we have, but it doesn't make the quality of life better. So like the inner, like, it doesn't make you happier necessarily.
Mhm.
Now we can, put them in the cell phone, we order food, it's 5 minutes there in your house, but that doesn't make you happier necessarily. It's more comfortable, it's faster, yeah, but it doesn't make you happier. So this book opened my mind with that, and then after that I started studying, and then a year after that, that's when it hit me. I need to do this in my life. I went, by the way, it was very interesting that year. When I graduated from university back in 2005, uh, the speaker, I went to a university in Massachusetts, in United States, and the speaker of the graduation was a man named Ray Kurzweil, that he's a futurist,
Mm.
and he has written a lot of books about the future, and he was writing about artificial intelligence,
Wow.
nanotechnology, biotechnology, all of this that it's
Mhm.
right now is a big thing. Back in 2005, so that blew my mind when I bought his books, and I read his books. And then when I quit my job, I went into internet to look for him, to see
Mhm.
what he was doing.
Mhm.
you know like, because it was like it really affected me, all what he was saying, and I recommend it. He has plenty books, and what he had the same speech, TED, technology,
Ted,
entertainment, design,
same.
yeah. So he had in TED, he had the same speech that he gave when I graduated. He had a
In
speech
Ted.
about that, but he had another new speech, and I opened that, and he was basically, in that moment, he was opening with a group of people, opening a university that is called Singularity University. And that Singularity University, with NASA and Google and him, and in Silicon Valley, and it was, right now, it's Singularity University is like
Oh
top
wow.
of all of these exponential growing technologies. And I decided to apply,
Mhm.
and I went to an executive program for 10 days. It was the first in 2009. It was the first executive program, and it was the same year that I started studying Kabbalah,
Mhm.
and it was mind blowing.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it hit me. Everything that I was reading in the books of Kabbalah made more sense now. Like having both aspects, like the spiritual aspect of,
Ah
of the
wow.
big plan, and
Mhm.
what's actually happening in the world. It was amazing. So then I realized that there has to be a conscious revolution in the world. There has to be a revolution of consciousness, because everything is happening so fast,
Sí.
and we're getting much more power.
Mhm.
Humans, as an individual, have more power than before.
Mhm.
Even with the internet, your words, what we're doing right now, we're sitting down in my house recording a podcast. You don't know how many people are going to listen to
Mhm.
this. So we're impacting
Mhm.
much more, and more and more and more. And when we get to nanotechnology and artificial intelligence, it's going to be even more. The
And faster,
individual will
sí.
be able to impact like crazy. Nanotechnology, nano manufacturing is actually, you know, manufacturing things in the
At,
subatomic level.
sí.
Yeah. So it's, you can do whatever of whatever.
Mhm.
It's like alchemy.
Sí.
Literally, it's like
Yeah.
alchemy,
Sí.
but with technology. So when we get there, imagine one person. Now governments can press a button and destroy the world,
Mhm.
right? With nuclear weapons. When we get there, one person will have that power. So in order to save humanity, we need to have consciousness.
Sure.
We need to understand, what is it about. We're creating artificial intelligence. Who's creating that?
Mhm.
Who's playing God?
Mhm.
What mind is putting that into the computer?
Mhm.
So we're living in a very dangerous
Sí.
and very, unique time in humanity. And that's when it hit me that this is very important, that more people are more conscious, and to really understand what life is about. And that's why I decided to do that
Okay.
back then.
So let's talk about this wisdom.
Yes.
What is it teaching? What does it explain?
So, as I mentioned, there's laws there's laws, like physical laws that
Sí.
affects all everybody, like for example the law of gravity, the physical laws, right? If I choose not to believe in those laws, doesn't mean that they won't affect me, right? If I choose not to believe in the law of gravity and I jump through the window, I won't fly.
Mhm.
I will go down,
Sí.
right? So it's laws of cause and effect. So there's also spiritual laws. And one of the main laws, there's two things that I wanted to mention. One of the, and this is very logical, right? One of the principal thing is that Kabbalists divide the world into like two realities. There's the inner reality and there's the external reality.
Okay.
So the inner reality is our thoughts, our emotions, our consciousness, everything that is not physical, everything that, love, wisdom, clarity,
Mhm.
everything that it's not physical. I cannot go to a store
And back. Sí.
and buy love,
Sí.
right?
Sure.
Like it would be amazing, but you can't. It's something that has to happen inside. And then there's the external reality. The external reality is everything that we experience through our five senses. This podcast, you, me, our bodies, everything that we experience through our five senses. So usually, what we think is that the external reality is affecting the internal reality. Like, for example, when I see something good, I feel good. When I hear something good, I feel good.
Mhm.
And it's the opposite. It's actually the internal and
It's
our way
your
of viewing
judgment. Sí.
life, our way of viewing life that it's affecting the external.
Mhm.
And so most of the people are constantly trying to change externally, trying to change their circumstances. The people that the people that they're with, their job, how much money they have, their wife, their kids. If we want to change
Sí.
them,
Mhm.
right? We don't want to change ourselves. And it's very interesting, but if you just change outside and not inside, you're just changing the effect. You're not changing the cause. So that situations
Mm.
that hurt you would repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat itself. The only way that you can actually change your state of being
It's.
is by changing inside. If you let's say, no, somebody that has issues with money,
Mhm.
right? Because every time that, whatever he does businesses, their partners, cheat on them, right? And they abuse them with money.
Mhm.
So that person has two options. Say, people are the worst,
Mhm.
people are bad, people,
Yeah.
people, you cannot trust people with money,
With.
or
Uh-huh.
you can start realizing, why is this happening to me? Why I am allowing this to happen, and what needs to change in me to change that movie in my life. So that's the first law. We need to
Starts in you.
change inside, not to change outside.
Outside. Okay.
Obviously, we change outside by changing inside. You know, you have the energy, you have the power, you have the to actually change your movie outside if you're changing inside. That's one thing. And the
Mhm.
other thing is that uh, there's a purpose to this creation. There's a purpose. There is an intelligence behind this. And I think, and this is very hard to prove,
Mhm.
obviously, because it's something that how do you prove that there's
You can't improve the infinite.
you cannot prove the infinite. You cannot prove, the thought of creation. You cannot prove it. But when you start learning about it and when you start applying those principles to your life, you see the evidence.
Sure.
You understand? You see the evidence that there is a thought.
Mhm.
There is something behind us moving things in a certain way. So I see life as a business. You know, if you have a business, you have a purpose, you have a mission, you do the business because you want to get something out of it. So life in general, the creation has a purpose.
The creation. O sea.
All this physical
Okay.
Everything, this movie that we're living in
Mm,
has a purpose.
the one we're living in, not the one that, o sea, our movie, no?
Yeah, but it's the same. The one that we're living in, like this that we're living in.
Sí.
I love video games, and it's like a video game. When you play a video game, there's a purpose to the video game. You need to finish the video game. You need to get to an objective
Mhm,
to finish the video game.
mhm.
The same thing is with life. There's a general purpose of the creation of the universe. It wasn't created randomly. It has a intelligence behind it. There's I want to say like a programmer behind it that programmed this in a certain way that if you play according to the laws of the video game, you will win in the video game. If you don't play according to the laws of the video game, then you will lose. You understand? So it's the same thing with life.
But
When you learn the laws of the video game, when you learn the laws of life, of creation, and you start playing with these laws, then you become more successful. You become happier. You become, wiser. You can decide not to play, not to believe in that.
yeah,
Okay. And it's like playing the video game and just trying random things, and then you will know where you need to go, right? Eventually, like the game itself will take you there. So that's how life is.
number,
That's what life is. Life has wisdom behind it, and by understanding this wisdom, you can actually flow through life in a better way. So there's two states that we can be in. One state is reactive. What does it mean, reactive? Reactive is not only angry. Reactive means that everything, I'm an effect of everything that happens around me, right? So I'm
yeah.
happy because this happened today. I'm sad because this happened today. I am, whatever. Like I'm an effect of everything that happens around me. So if I'm an effect, I'm not creating anything. I'm not a creator of anything.
So the other one would be create or receive.
The When you start being proactive or being the cause of your life by making wiser decisions and not expecting other people to do things for you, not expecting things to happen. Right now, for example, there's it's gonna be, it was the elections in Mexico
Mhm.
a few weeks
Weeks
ago, and
ago.
it's gonna be the elections in the United States, and everybody's focused on that, right? And it's okay, it's important, but at the same time, that cannot define your life. Who's gonna be the president? Who's gonna be this? That cannot define your life. You need to learn to flow on whatever is happening. Doesn't matter what's happening. Doesn't matter who's the president. You need to learn to adapt. You need to learn how to flow, and that means to be creator. But if you are like, oh, I'm afraid that this will happen, and then you're the effect. So one of the things that we need to learn how to do, and obviously this takes much more than just a few minutes in a podcast, but it's to actually to retake control of our lives and really be creator of our lives, not to be the effect. And it's practice. What we say, how we act. If we are constantly complaining, if we're constantly, in that mindset, then we're giving energy to that movie. We're giving energy to that state of mind of us that we're an effect and we're not the cause. You know, so there's several tools. Another tool also is to be giving. But sometimes, or most of the time, when we think about giving to other people, we think, okay, they need me, so I'm going to help them. And we need to rethink the way we think about giving. For me, giving is a habit. It needs to be like brushing my teeth. Why do I brush my
Without,
teeth?
sí.
Because it helps me. It's in my interest. There's something that it's affecting me. My teeth are gonna be. I'm not gonna have cavities. It's not gonna be painful eventually. So that's why I want to keep my teeth clean. I want to have good breath. That's why I want to keep my teeth clean. I don't care what people. Yeah, at the beginning, obviously, my mom would tell me, "Yeah, you need to wash your teeth," but eventually, it needs to get to a point that it's benefiting me.
Mhm.
That's why I do it. That's why I have this habit. The same with giving. Yeah, when we were young, probably our parents told us it's good to give, right, to other people. But then we need to understand that it's not about the other people. It's not about, oh, they need me, so I'm going to help them. It's about me. It's something that it's helping me. So giving is actually better for us
And just receiving.
than just being the effect, So all of these things, being the cause, being more a giver towards other people, affecting, how can I create an impact in the world? This is what you're doing is amazing, because and that's what makes you happy to do it, because you're creating an impact in the life of other people.
Hmm.
So that's very important. Sometimes we're just focused on how the world is gonna solve our issues, and we need to start thinking of how are we gonna create a positive impact on others. Obviously, to create a positive impact on others, we need to learn to receive as well,
Hmm.
because you cannot give what you don't have, right? So you need to study, you need to create wealth. But it's not about just having wealth because you want recognition or you want others to tell you that you're amazing. It's because that power and that wealth and whatever you want to create will allow you to create a bigger impact in the life of others. So all of that is going with the flow of creation, and there's deeper, obviously,
Hmm.
wisdom
Hmm.
into it. But in general sense, that's and it's a truth, it's a universal truth. I'm pretty sure that people that are listening to us probably were saying, "Yeah, I know this," because it's a truth.
Hmm.
It's not something out of another world. It's truth of life. Like the same thing that if you jump out of a building, you will fall. These truths that we're speaking right now are universal truths and go above religion or faith or whatever. You know, you can believe in no God and apply these laws to your life, and you will see an effect in your life. You don't need to believe in God to apply this into your life and see an effect in your life. So that's the important thing. It's not about believing a new dogma or whatever. It's using the wisdom and using that in your life. You will see an effect, and that's what makes you wiser, right?
How has using this wisdom impacted or affected your life?
I think in that way, I think, you know, for example, 10 years ago, my father passed away. And I'm pretty sure that if I didn't have these tools and this wisdom, it would have been 20 times harder. I navigated it. I navigated through the process, and I did things that, for example, like a week before my father had cancer, and a week before my father died, I sat down with him, and this is because because I was working on myself, and I was working. If I wouldn't be working on myself, I'm pretty sure I would have not done that. I sat down with him, and I told him, "Thank you for everything that you have given me.
Wow.
Thank you, like really from the bottom of my heart." And my father said, and I told him, "Listen," because my father in that moment, I was into Kabbalah, and he didn't understand what I was doing
Mm.
really. So, uh, so, so I told him, I know that you don't understand what I'm doing right now, but I promise you that everything that what I'm doing is something big, and I'm creating, and I'm impacting a lot of people, and everything that I'm doing and who I am right now is because what you have given me."
Wow.
And I made pieces with him,
Hmm.
and when he passed away, I felt like it wasn't, sometimes when you have close people that die, and you have certain things pending to tell them or to talk to them because you're afraid, or because you have judgment, or because you're angry, or whatever, you don't do it, and then you regret it. I had no regrets when my father passed away, and that was a huge blessing. And just that was something that this wisdom gave me,
Wow.
to actually take action in that moment, and and make things happen in that moment. And a lot of things like that, in decisions, business decisions in my life, even choosing my wife, wisely, like decisions. When you start studying, you make decisions wiser. And and on the other hand, when things happen, because it doesn't mean that challenges won't happen. Challenges have a purpose, and they're supposed to happen into your life.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that if you start studying this wisdom,
Challenges won't come.
challenges won't. Challenges will come, but you will know how to deal with them in a better way, and you will know how to navigate it in a better way, and you will, it would be easier in a certain way, right?
What is a soul?
The soul, there's many aspects to it, but in a basic level, the soul is our desire to receive, our desire. So think about it. When a person has a lot of desire, he's alive. He wants to eat the world. You see, this guy is alive. When a person doesn't have
It
desire,
shows. Yeah.
and it's like depressed, and why we say depressed, because so it's a little bit more dead. Like he doesn't want to move. He gets sick. So the soul starts living. So the soul is not something we think it's something, because we try to
We try to
visualize
say.
things. It's not something visual. It's a consciousness. And in a very practical level, the soul is the desire. Is the desire. So we need to take care of our desire. When we say we need to take care of our soul, is that we need to take care of our desire, and we need to grow our desire, right? And sometimes when we're not taking care of our desire, that desire gets depressed, and we're like shut down, and we need to learn how to revive it.
How do we revive the desire?
So
And properly, because you can have desire for. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You can
yeah,
have desire for Adderall, or you can have desire for.
so that's part of what we were saying at the beginning. Everything that's coming from the external gives you limited fulfillment.
Mhm.
So when you desire something from the external, let's say you desire recognition from something, and let's not talk about drugs or anything.
Sure.
Obviously that's included there, but let's say recognition. I want
Fame.
recognition from this person,
Fame.
fame or recognition. And you're constantly, your mind, you have an illusion about it, right? Because the desire, you have an illusion, like a picture of what will that feel,
Mm.
how will, having that will feel in your life, and how will you feel. So you're constantly, and you do, and that to get that, and you're alive in that moment. But then you get the fame, or probably you get it or you don't get it.
Mhm.
No, it can happen both ways. But let's say you get it, and then you get the fame, and then you get to a point and you say, this
Now
is
what?
it.
That's it.
This was the whole fuss, like,
Mhm.
I was fighting 10 years of my life to get to this point, and that's it. And that's, by the way, that's what happens to a lot of famous people, that
Mhm.
then they feel lack, and that's why they get into drugs and this and that, and they don't know how to challenge
We
their
need a way
desire.
to fill that void,
they
right?
don't they don't know how to channel that desire,
Okay.
right? So that's one example, fame. But also, you know let's not go into fame, let's go recognition from our parents, recognition from our friends, recognition, that people give us, certain support, or we expect things from certain people, that they should act a certain way. All of that will only give you limited fulfillment. I will give you an example. Let's say that you are, you're hooked up with a girl, and you want this girl to tell you that she loves you,
Mm.
and you're thinking about that all the time, and she won't tell you that, and you're like, oh my god, and I want, and you fight, and you this, and then one day things change, and every day, every 30 minutes, this girl sends you a chat telling you that she loves you.
Mm.
After a week, you're gonna hate that girl.
Say. Yeah.
You understand
Mhm.
why? Because that is not where fulfillment comes from. And that's where we think fulfillment comes from the external, right? So that's the first thing. If I'm desiring something from the external, that most of us do, you need to know, it's a law, that that will disappoint you, and then your desire will shrink after that. You will lose desire after that. So what do? You need to awaken a desire to connect to something that will constantly fulfill you, and that's only inside of you, right? And yeah, we can talk God, light, but desire needs to be, I want to desire to constantly evolve, and in that evolution you will find that fulfillment. Instead of desiring, I want this, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want to evolve. And it's very hard to awaken that desire. It's work, that's spiritual work actually. It's very hard to do it, but it takes practice. And if you are constant, you will awaken it, and eventually you will get, how would I say, you will get a little bit like, I won't say disconnected, because that word sounds like you won't care
Mm-hmm.
of what's happening outside you, but you will become more independent, in the way that if things happen a certain way or another, it won't affect you as much,
Mm.
right? And that's true freedom. That's really when a person gets to that point. I'm still not there. I'm working to get into that point constantly in my life.
Do you think it's possible to?
What I've seen, I'm much more there than what I was before.
Sure,
So there's a progress.
but if
So that's
there's,
why I think it's possible.
but if that's full, now what? No.
No, you're fulfilled, you're happy, and fulfillment comes not from what people give you, but what you can give to people. That's where fulfillment gives.
Is this connected to what tikkun is?
Yeah, tikkun, we means correction. What we need to correct is our desire. We need
Ah,
to
wow,
refocus our desire.
wow.
That's the correction. That's a tikkun. Tikkun means correction,
So
right?
tikkun, something that's been easy for me to understand what tikkun is it's like a karma, no, something that you keep working.
Yeah, tikkun is to refocus our desire. So, for example, there's very basic levels of understanding tikkun. Like, for example, let's say somebody is angry, right? So he has a tikkun because he's angry. But think about it. Why that person is angry? Because he was desiring something
And you
from
can,
the external that he didn't got, right? And
like,
that's why he's angry. So really, what he needs to correct is to refocus that desire that he had to expect that from that person or that situation. That's why he needs to correct, to refocus that. And if he refocuses that, he won't get angry. So he finishes tikkun in that sense. You understand?
yeah,
But it's all comes down to, where do you focus your desire? All comes down to that.
okay. And when you've refocused the tikkun, is there a,
No, you're fulfilled. No, you're when it's not something. It's a constant work,
sure,
right? It's not something that you reach. I reached it. It's a constant work. It's a constant work. There's something very beautiful that my teacher, Michael Berg, says, that when a person gets to that point, then he needs to awaken newer desires and correct those.
wow,
Like, it's a constant work, and because then you become a bigger, you can create a bigger impact. You can create a bigger, you're a bigger vessel, you have a bigger capacity to influence.
right, vessel. So what is vessel?
Is that
That
is
capacity
is also the vessel is the same. Vessel, desire, and soul
is
are
one.
synonyms.
Wow.
The vessel, because the vessel
And this
is,
is why questioning things leads to like a change of desire, no?
of course, because if you're questioning things, it's because you have a desire to know.
Wow.
There's a
So,
vessel. If you're like, no, 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 everything is, if you're not questioning constantly, then and by the way, like when we're younger, we like to question, and then if somebody looks at you weird because you're questioning too much, then you shut down your questioning.
see.
You suppress yourself, and that shouldn't happen.
Wow.
You need to fight it. You need, no, wait, I don't care what you think about me.
That fighting is more desire.
Yeah, you need to fight. Like, you need to, I want to know. It's very important to really connect to that. Yeah, probably you will piss off some people, and who cares?
Sí.
you know,
That's their
who
problem.
cares?
Sí.
That's their problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not your problem. You wanna. It's your life. It's your vessel. It's your soul. It's your desire.
What would be the opposite of desire? What the ego is? O sea,
No, the ego is also. People think that ego is bad. The
mm,
ego is not bad.
it's still desire.
It's desire, but we need to learn to focus it. We need to direct our desire in a way that it will
So
constantly grow.
ego is the incorrect desire,
Yeah, like, let's
the
say,
unfocused desire.
ego. What ego means, the word for ego is you. It
Mm.
means I in Latin. That's what the word means. So what the ego refers is that your desires are unique and are different than mine, and that's what makes you. That's your ego, your desires, and my desires are different, right? So there's a negative connotation to
To
ego,
ego, yeah.
right? But ego is not a bad thing. Arrogance, it's
Mm.
another thing. Right? So arrogance means I know everything.
Hmm.
What does it mean? I don't have anything. I don't have more desire.
Wow.
There's no, the glass is full, nothing fits more,
Wow.
right? So that's not good, because you want to constantly, I don't know anything. I understand certain things, but I want to know more. And we need to constantly work on that. And that's the spiritual work. When we say we know, we lost. You understand? It's a constant, because it gives you obviously fulfillment and recognition. Wow, I know this, right? But there's so much more. There's so much more to receive. And that's the beauty of it, right? So, and it's a tendency, usually, uh, it's very hard to open yourself to new things, because there's fears, there's uh, you know uh, uh, preconceptions,
Sure.
there's judgment. So it's very hard to open yourself to new things, to explore. It's very hard. You need to explore in a healthy way. I'm not saying to explore drugs or anything like that. I'm saying to be open, to really be open to receive more,
Well,
right?
okay.
Sí, yo creo que es ahí.
Satan. What is it, and how do we play with that player?
So Satan is not a physical entity, as it has been described by religions. The literal word for Satan is adversary, opponent. So we have usually, we say that we need to constantly thrive to maintain our desire, to grow our desire. But there's a voice constantly that is limiting that, opposing that, right? And the reason that voice exists, that it's not our essence, it's not our soul, it's not coming from our soul. The reason that exists is because if there was no opponent, if there was no adversary, things would be too easy.
Sure.
And by things being too easy, there wouldn't be fulfillment. So when I told you, like, life is like a video game, in that video game, you also have adversaries in the video game that makes the game challenging
And worth playing.
and worth playing.
Okay.
If there's no adversaries and it's just running from one place to the other, it's the boring, the most boring video game in the world, right? So that's the reason of that adversary. That's the reason of the Satan. Who created the Satan?
The creator.
The creator, right? There's a design that has a purpose, and and it comes from there. So it's not that the Satan is a devil, or it's an angel that fought against God, or no. It's part of the plan, and we need to understand why is it like that. Now, sometimes when we see world and when we see chaos, we think that's bad, that's wrong, that's something that
A mistake.
a mistake from creation, right? And it's not true, because we are living in a world where time exists. Time limits our vision,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like, for example, you cannot see what's going to happen in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we cannot see what's going to happen in the future, we don't have the ability to judge the whole thing. We don't have the ability to judge the big picture, right? So we think it's a mistake. So, for example, let's say if you wouldn't be, let's say you're an extraterrestrial being,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you come into this world and you see a cow giving birth of a little calf, and you see a woman giving birth of a little baby, right? And then you will see the baby and the calf, and you will see that the calf will stand up right away and will look for food. And you will see that the baby, if it's left alone, will die, right? So, what will be your assumption? That the cow is a more
Um,
elevated species than the human. But why you get to that conclusion? Because time didn't allow you to see the whole picture. You're only seeing one point in time. You're not seeing the whole picture. If you see the whole picture, eventually you will see no, the baby will grow eventually to dominate the cow, right? So it's the same thing with world. When we see things, because we're not seeing the big picture, we're not seeing from beginning to end the whole thing, we think this is a mistake. This is wrong. This shouldn't be like that. It's part of the process. It's part of the evolution that needs to happen that way for a certain reason. For millions of reasons, it needs to happen that way. And that's why we judge or we think that certain things are wrong. So this is not justifying the wrong actions of people. I'm not saying that. But if things happen a certain way, it's because it was supposed to happen in that way, and and there's a purpose for it, right? And even in the most, you know, uh, uh, horrible things that have happened in humanity. I have a friend that went to Japan, and this friend, when he was there, he was surprised at how the Japanese, the culture, the society were so evolved in many different ways. And at the end of his trip, he asked the tourist guide, like, what do you guys do to become this, right? And the guy answered, the bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because that waking up the society to take responsibility. And you think about it now, one of the closest allies of the United States is Japan, who was, the United States was the one that bombed them. So it's very interesting, right?
for sure.
But the fact is that certain things that happen in our way that are painful and are hurting, sometimes are necessary for the evolution of the individual or society. Obviously, we want to avoid that. We want to avoid pain. We want to avoid, Hiroshima and Nagasaki happening, right?
Okay.
So the only way to avoid that is that instead of letting life change you, you take change into your hands.
Wow.
If you take change into your hands and you decide to change and you decide to evolve, that those things won't need to happen.
Wow.
And that's actually the purpose of teaching Kabbalah. To remove pain and suffering by waking up people to change by themselves, not by life pushing them to change.
Wow. So what is everything else a vessel as well? like the rest of existence, the rest of the 1%, the rest of nature, the trees, the birds, the cows. Is
Yeah,
that
there's when we mean vessel, yeah, we understand vessel as a desire, but why we talk vessel as a vessel? Because when you have a desire, you're gonna have a desire of a desire. You have a desire of something, right? That something is like the content of the vessel, right? Like for example, if you have desire of a pizza, the image of the pizza is like the content that it's inside the vessel,
Hmm.
and the vessel itself is the desire. So that image is what we call the light in the vessel. So there's the vessel, and then there's the light of the vessel. The vessel is the desire, and the light is that fulfillment or that capacity of that ability of that being. So, for example, our desires and our vessels is what define our abilities as well. You know, if you desire something,
Sure.
you will
Okay.
learn that, and you will have a vessel for it, right? But everything has an ability. Like even the table has the ability to exist. You understand? So in that way,
Hmm.
everything also has a vessel. Even though it's not a conscious desire, it's a vessel of that ability that is within that table. Plants have the ability to grow and to reproduce. Animals have the ability to organize socially and also grow and also reproduce and also exist. So everything in the four kingdoms, mineral, vegetable, animal, and human, are vessels, are different types of vessels, different capacities of vessels. But if they have a capacity, there's a vessel behind it.
Wow. In the same question, there's something that blows my mind in the Kabbalistic explanation of water, not just as H2O.
Uh huh.
No? So what is water? What's special about
So
this?
water is it's an element that it's very malleable,
Sure, yeah.
that can
Transform?
transform or can be affected by whatever you put on it. So energetically, and there's been experiments about this. Our thoughts affect water,
Yeah, I
and
was
and since we are mostly made out of water,
Mhm.
so it also affects us. That's why water is it's such an important part of life,
It is, see, of
because
course.
at the end of the day, we need to drink water, we need to shower, we need to
We started
wash our
with
hands.
uh,
We're made out of water. So water, it's it's a vessel actually of pure light.
wow.
But that pure light can also be corrupted. Like if we inject negative energy, negative thoughts, water can also be affected in a negative way. So that's why water, at the same time that can create life, can also create destruction. You have hurricanes, and you have floods, and you have,
Mhm.
and so everything needs to be in balance. And if it's not balanced, then if it's lacking or it's too much, and it's not balanced, it's not just the perfect amount or the perfect, the right amount. uh, it's not it's destroying,
Yeah.
right? So also energy itself, you know if
There's
we receive more energy that we have a vessel for it, it will hurt us. So there's constantly more and more energy flowing towards us, and we have a responsibility to create that vessel to actually receive that energy, right? Because if not, then it will be too much.
Mhm.
It's like me putting you a flashlight in your face. It's too much.
Or carrying 300 pounds when I can't.
Exactly,
See.
when you can't. So we need to constantly be uh, working on that vessel, working on that desire, so we can actually hold more.
So something that will make sense more for my listeners, and I don't know if you know, but quantum mechanically, it was proven that structured water,
Mhm.
water
Yeah,
by
with Yamamoto, no? What's the name of the guy?
besides that guy that he
The
proved
Jap-
that thoughts,
uh-huh.
but water in the body retains memory.
Yeah, wow.
What happened to the whole system? It retains memory by way of electrons,
Wow.
by
Can you
charge
send me that?
separation.
Can you send me that? That would be interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's in the same.
Yeah, it is, because that's actually what Kabbalists explain. That what you're saying is totally true.
Mhm.
And that's where the water is very, in spiritual life also, water has a very important role. In Christianism, the baptism, the holy water.
Mhm.
In Judaism, you have the mikveh.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
water is very involved in the spiritual aspect, because it's a very powerful substance.
So something that the Kabbalah also teaches is the mikveh, right? Using water
Using
to
water, yeah.
be reborn, kind of,
Kind
no?
of yeah, it's like to reborn ourselves. And very interesting. The best, the mikveh is like a spiritual bath that you go into, and you meditate in certain meditation, so you can actually rejuvenate yourself. Eh, and the most powerful water to do mikveh on is on spring water,
It's
right?
the water from nature. See, that's
That
in.
it's coming up from nature.
See,
And
wow.
something very interesting, that a very interesting thing uh, that my teacher, the Rav Berg, used to say, was that gravity, the force of gravity, represents selfishness.
Wow.
Because literally, I want you. I'm attracting you.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I want this, I want that, I want that, for me, for me, for me. So think about it. That when the sun is like attracting, like the planets are attracting things, is like their selfishness kind of thing, right? So spring water is an unselfish energy, because it's going against gravity. It's going up. So that's why spring, like to go to a spring, or even though the water, when you have like drinking water, there is spring water, it's so healthy and so vibrant, because it has that energy within it,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, water is a whole subject, but yeah, it's
And
very powerful.
and the thing about spring water actually having like movement, does that
Exactly.
affect the
Yeah, because there's
right?
flow
That
also.
that flow quantum mechanically, it explains what structured water is. It changes the actual. It changes the physical structure of water, the movement of water.
Please send me that, because I will use that in my classes.
See.
No, amazing, because we teach a lot about that. We teach a lot about how flow, also money. Money has to do with that as well. If you Money should flow like water.
Wow.
Like, not only to give and empty yourself, you need to also receive. But sometimes we're unbalanced. We are in the extreme of just receiving and stocking that energy,
Hmm.
or just giving and not receiving.
Mm.
So we need to learn how to flow with it, like a river. A
Wow.
river receives waters and gives water. You understand? So it's
Mhm.
the same thing with sustenance, with money. Everything is correlated.
Is there a reason why mikvehs are usually cold as well, or is that just the nature of the water?
No, it's because usually spring water is cold.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be cold. It's just that water, usually when it's spring water, it's coming from the mountains, and it's usually cold.
You want to know something else about cold spring water
What?
that you'll also love for your classes? Cold, cold through mammalian biology
Uh huh.
changes the way you create light inside and helps you create light inside. You've studied quantum
Yeah, yeah.
mechanics. You were an electrical. Uh,
I'm an industrial engineer, but I know.
then you studied what a semiconductor was,
Yes,
right?
yes.
What is a semiconductor?
Yeah, it's something that makes energy flow.
Uh-huh. Cold water helps the semiconductors in our body create light, which is something. It's another topic, no? Pero
Because it allows the energy to flow better into the body.
into the semiconductors, yeah.
That's cool.
Sí.
Yeah, a semiconductor, you need to take it. Certain semiconductors, you need to take them to a freezing levels so you can actually
Just
conduct
imagine
more
your
electricity.
body, you're full of semiconductors.
Yeah,
I don't know if you knew. Collagen,
yeah.
most of your proteins are semiconductors. The bone was discovered to be an LED,
An LED. What do you mean?
light emitting diode,
Wow, really?
by a doctor. His name was Robert Obecker. He discovered, because he started to work on regeneration in all bodies and all existing bodies works through electromagnetism and semiconductors. He discovered that bone creates infrared light.
Wow,
See,
it's amazing.
uh-huh. And water is just another story of how we can help create light inside of us, how we can help move light inside of us. So this is a story that's, if I send it to you, it's gonna blow your,
That's crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, send it to me.
So talking about another topic now, one that I'm into right now a little bit would be like life force. Most, I think I mentioned this to you a couple months ago, maybe. Most traditions, cultures, and maybe even other religions, they have a word or a terminology of controlling like life force. No?
Yeah, life force. When life force, it's what in Kabbalah we call light. The light is what's emanating from the Creator, and it's what gives us life, the force of life. So it's very interesting. This week I was given a class that why we get sick spiritually, because we're blocking,
Sick spiritually?
like physically and spiritually,
Like us, like
like
us,
sickness, like physical sickness
is because of us.
is because of
Wow.
spiritual sickness. But what's spiritual sickness? Every time that we're reactive, every time that we generate a blockage.
Yeah.
It's called a klipa. That
Klipa.
means a shell, like a spiritual shell that doesn't allow life and life force to enter into our minds, into our
Wow.
body. And so people think like, no, I'm stupid, and no, it's not that you're stupid. It's that there's something spiritually blocking that energy
Wow.
coming into you. So yeah, we need to reestablish that flow of light into our lives, and using the tools allows us to do that. But also it's a change in consciousness, no? But it's very interesting. But there's many things, that very interesting, that what's happening now. You were asking at the beginning, do you think that we're more mature? Think about it. Like before, we wouldn't think about these things,
No.
right?
Yeah, there
Like,
were certain points in history you would be killed.
yeah, you would be killed, or or at least I would say 10, 20 years ago, you would be looked as a fool,
Say,
right? So things are changing very fast.
sure. Yeah, that
Things are
makes sense.
changing very fast. And we are and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And we will get to a point that we will look back and we'll say, wow, what happened? Right? It's Things are changing very fast. And we need to prepare for that change. We need to be we need to evolve with that change. It's
Wow.
not only just staying the same, and think things will be good. We need to evolve. But yeah.
A very big topic at the start of the episode was like the inner voice or intuition, gut feeling. This is a topic that I've been wanting to talk to you about separately for a long time. And well, what is intuition? The gut feeling.
So it's that, because at the end of the day, what I was telling you, there is a there's the vessel, there's the light, but then there's a shell around that light that doesn't allow you to connect to that light. And that shell is our reactivity, our anger, our fears, our judgment, right? Our logic doesn't allow you to see more than that. So when you start working on that, when you start, trying to push that anger away, trying to push that logic, trying to push that judgment, those fears, you open up to really what your soul is telling you. And that's intuition. Now, where is it coming from? It's
Wow.
coming from the light. It's coming from the spiritual worlds. So, that's why when, for example, when we have dreams, suddenly we think about things that will happen, or things that are happening in other
Mm-hmm.
places in the world, or things that, there are certain people that can dream of things that will happen, or premonitions. Why? How can that be? Because when we're dream, we shut off the reactive system when we're asleep. That's what shut offs, like the ego
Mm-hmm.
shuts off, and that's why we can channel those things easier. But that's why when we wake up, like sometimes we need to fight to remember what the dream is, because the ego kicks in again and then it's blocking it again.
Wow.
So we need to, but there's when we start working ourselves, we open our channel to that as well. And we have this feeling, I think this is good to do. I don't know if this is good to do. And yeah, it's part of the process of opening up that channel.
What is dreaming?
It's that it's the same
What's that
thing.
sleep?
Sleep, it's a
Because
version of death.
there's different levels of like consciousness
Yeah,
during the 8 hours of.
but sleep, it's, and that's a whole other topic, why death exists. Death also has a purpose, but sleep is a mini death that we experience every day. When we die, the soul rises up to a different level, right, and recharges itself and comes back. It's like recharging the battery. That's why when we really sleep deep and good, we feel rested, because we are recharging ourselves. So dying, and by the way, it's the same thing we were talking about the mikveh earlier. When you have and I explained this to you one time, no, when we have a computer, that the computer crashes, you need to shut it down and reboot it, right? And then it will start again. So that's why death happens, because sometimes in this life we are so much blocked by, not doing our work, and we're so reactive and holding on to grudges and all of that, and being reactive to negativity, that the way for the soul to cleanse is to reboot itself and to die and be born again, right? But sleeping is that mechanism as well in a micro level. So also before sleeping and waking up in the morning, it's a very important moment.
So bad sleep would mean my soul doesn't want to recharge.
Yeah, it's or your ego is not allowing. It's not that your soul doesn't want you to
Ah,
recharge.
the ego,
It's
of
that the
course.
ego is not allowing the soul to elevate,
Wow.
right? It's like, no. So we need to, and there's meditations to do before we sleep and also in the morning, so we can actually help that process.
Hmm.
So the soul can actually recharge itself and come back again and be more powerful.
A little bit out of topic, more of you being a teacher. How long have you been a teacher for?
10
10
years.
years? What has been like the biggest, you can take it in two ways, like lesson or like biggest takeaway from being a teacher
So I will tell you
of
something.
this?
When I at the beginning, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was looking, and that was it's part of my negativity, my reactiveness. I was looking a lot into the acceptance of my teachers.
Hmm.
Like for them to, and they
What's that
wouldn't
when
give.
you were studying?
Yeah, when I was studying, and I
Ah,
was
in general. Say, okay.
in
Okay.
here, no, in Kabbalah, and they wouldn't give it to me. Why? Because they wanted to break that
Mm.
necessity of me, right? It was part of my, but in that
Wow.
moment, it was very hard for me. And it came to a point that actually my teachers made certain decisions with me, that it looked like they wanted me out, right? That they don't want me to be part of it. of the center of
To
Kabbalah
challenge you.
to challenge me.
Okay.
I was living here in Mexico. They sent me back to my home country, and it was very tough for me. Those 9 months there, it was very tough for me, and all kinds of thoughts came to me, judgment against them.
Wow.
And then one day I was very desperate, and I called one of my teachers, and I said, I don't know what to do. Like I'm really I don't know what to do. And there's this very important spiritual connection called Rosh Hashanah,
Mm.
and he asked me, "Are you coming to Rosh Hashanah?" And I told her, "Listen, I'm going not because I want. I'm going because my girlfriend is going, and if I don't go, she will leave me." Right? So I really didn't have a desire. So in the we had a conversation like 30 minutes, and at the end of the conversation, I asked him, "But I don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I don't know what to do with my life." So he told me, in that connection, go there and beg the light to show you what you need to do. Don't think about anything else. And I remember it was the first time I went to that connection, and I didn't care. I was in a place that I didn't care what they thought about me, what they were thinking about me, like what, you know, and I was just going for that. I want to receive that clarity. I want to receive that as like I had a desire for that
Hmm.
for the first time, because before my desire was focused on
The girlfriend. Same
not
way.
girlfriend, on what my teacher would think, and this, even that, it's a limited desire. Even what my teacher will think of me, it's a limited desire. It's a desire of, you want something external to fulfill you, even though it's your teacher, your spiritual teacher is something external, right? So they were making sure to clean me
Hmm.
of that. And that, I remember that connection, like when I had that really clarity, it was like a quantum leap in my evolution. Like I grew so much,
Wow.
and I received so
In a
much
week.
clarity, and that was very powerful. And I think in cert in several times, several other occasions that similar things like that has happened, is when I have had most growth. When there's a total uh, rejection of, in my case, what other people might think of me, or what, and really really connect to my real essence, and what I really think it's good for me, and not what other people think it's good for me. That's when most spiritual growth I've had.
Wow.
And that's part of the essence of this
Hmm.
wisdom. you know to practice it, it it's simple, but it's challenging. It's not, the wisdom is really simple, but it's challenging. it's
Yeah.
it's not easy to actually practice it. So
Hmm.
you need to invest to really see results.
Wow. But for my last question,
Uh-huh.
what brings you most joy in life? Joy.
You know what? Not only joy. Sometimes when I feel sick, like let's say I wake up and I have a cold throat, or and then usually I give classes at night.
Hmm.
When I give classes, I'm not gonna lie to you. After that, I feel so much energy
Hmm.
that even my sickness
Hmm.
goes away.
See, wow.
So for me, sharing this is one of the things. My kids, I love my kids, I love my family. But the fact that I can do this and I can teach, and what we did today, that gives me so much joy. You have no idea, and it's a blessing for me that I'm doing something that gives me that joy. So I think
Absolutely.
that's what gives me, I would say, the most joy.
Wow.
I've gone to vacations, I've gone to places, I've gone to,
Say,
and I always want to come back to do that. And
wow.
it's funny because it's always before doing it, before giving a class, that Satan always comes and gives me reasons of why not to do it, and I need to break it. But when I break it and I do it, it's like boom, it's amazing.
Wow.
I think that's what gives me the most joy.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an incredible episode.
Thank you so much. Thank
No,
you so much.
thank you. This is, give me a hug. This is such a different episode to the topics of my podcast, but to me, this is important.
Yeah.
And to me, this is something that has resonated recently. And it's not important for me, but
For people to know.
Mhm.
And how we started. No, there's a lot of misconceptions of what Kabbalah is.
Yeah,
And
that's why I also wanted to record this.
Yes.
Because there are, I mean, in the space that I am, I've
Yeah.
heard some terrible misconceptions. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if people, people need to be open and to
Mhm.
to explore and try for themselves. I would say, and this is something that one of the teachers writes in the books, Yuda Berg writes in the books, don't believe anything, try everything. Don't believe it. Believing it is like, I believe you, I don't need to try it. Don't believe it. Go for it, try it, like really like experience it and prove what we're saying, not just
Not just listen.
listen and
Mhm.
and believing.
Well, thank you, Vare, again for your time, your wisdom,
Amazing. Thank you.
and for giving me the opportunity to interview you today.
Thank you so much.
Gracias, Vare.
All the best. Padre, ¿no?
Wow.